Exactly. I was just talking to
How are you? Are you okay? I'm Shabir. Are you okay?
I know who you are. I've read your stuff on.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, I see. All right, I see. Okay. Why are you camera shy? Yeah, sorry.
I have a Muslim friend who encouraged me to come and asked, to have a tussle with you really about evolution.
Oh dear. Oh my God.
About evolution. Can't quite best me. So he thinks that you'll be able to just put me straight.
No, I never make claims like that at all. No. It's all about a learning process here. Yeah. So what is it that you're discussing with him?
We've got our discussion at the moment to a point where I'm saying, sorry, not Parkinson's.
It's okay, I understand.
Basically, about evolution. He has a problem with evolution. He can't accept evolution and...
Which aspect?
Well, any part of it really. I've asked him what the problem is with Islam and evolution. He just says, well, it's a bit of a problem that doesn't specify evolution in the Qur'an as such, so it's a bit difficult to believe in both. That's as far as I understand.
Yeah, probably, but my perspective on this particular subject matter is that the premise that one has to work on is, number one, was the universe created? It's a premise.
Right.
If the universe was created, then there is an explicit acknowledgement that there is a creator.
True.
If there is an acknowledgement that there is a creator, anything subsequent is subject to discussion. For example, evolution, the way it is understood in the scientific context.
Yes.
Okay, we look at that and we say, okay, let's take it on a basic level. Yes, we, as it is suggested, are a very advanced form of ape. Simply, basically. I agree with you, but basically speaking, okay, somewhere along the line divergence may have occurred, okay, so there's a retort on that. Okay, let's take it right back to the beginning. Okay, what are we going to find? Do we know how it all began?
Primordial slime.
Yeah, that's the idea. Okay, where did that come from? We know that there's a distinction between animate objects and inanimate objects. Okay,
it's got to be an intermediate form.
Now, is there something? So if there is, what is it? Now, we are all aware that a lot of claimants make the claim that evolution in the scientific context is a done deal. Okay,
it's settled science.
That's the contention.
Yes.
Nothing's
absolute in science.
No, nothing ever has been, and nothing can be, by definition.
Absolutely.
But if that is the case, the question is this: okay, evolution is a done deal. Okay, what convinces us that it is a done deal?
It's the theory which explains much more of the evidence than anything else we've come across so far.
Let's deal with the evidence. What kind of evidence are we referring to here?
Well, explains a great deal of. It said it explains. I'm not a scientist.
Oh, of course, no. I appreciate what you mean. Yeah.
But explains a great deal of the patterns of ecology, the way that different populations rise and fall. It explains. It's exemplified in
right.
There's a butterfly called Betuleria.
Yes.
Peppered moth.
Yes.
Which came in black form when the industrial age came.
Yes.
Came black against the black tree.
Yes.
So it didn't get shown up until the birds did peck at it.
Yes.
There's various other examples of that nature.
True.
There's those evidences.
Yeah.
There's the fossil evidence, which of course you know all about.
Yes. Yeah.
There's
Assalamu alaikum, young man. How are you? Are you all right?
There's
yes.
DNA evidence. Sorry.
Yeah. Now, sorry. I don't want to. I appreciate. I don't want to generalize on subject matter. For example, when you talk about the peppered moth, okay. When I was having a discussion with a colleague of mine in relation to this particular evidence, okay, I said, let's get this right. What I want to know, because evolution it's quite broad in its approach. It takes genetics into consideration, okay?
Well, if you want to say that, yes.
No,
that's perfectly fine.
Do you disagree?
Well, look, what I'm saying is that the evolution is a theory with Darwin and so forth and so on.
True.
We didn't know too much about genetics at that time. So
absolutely, but we are talking about current. We are talking about current.
Totality of science as it is now, yes, would include all the DNA evidence.
Absolutely, it is, because that is the information we are privy to right now. Okay, but my question is therefore that even if we look at the peppered moth, if the suggestion is right that there was a difference between black and white, okay, if we suggest, okay, my question would be, okay, are we looking at the genetic makeup here? And if we do consider the genetic makeup, is it, programmed to be able to have this difference?
Yes, it would be.
Right. Is it right?
It's potential.
Absolutely. But is that internal or is that external?
Internal or external to what?
To the surroundings, obviously.
It's within the peppered moth.
Well, if it is within the peppered moth, yes, how is it deemed to be evolution?
Right, because that would be evolution in its working. The way it would work would be that the gene which specifies the black form or the white form.
Stop there. How does it specify it?
By its expression, by having
how?
By having the DNA
but how?
Which specifies for a protein, which creates an enzyme.
Absolutely. That is just an explanation. It's not answering the question. What I mean by how does it do that? For example, if you say it is gene expression, okay, gene expression requires some form of input for it to be expressed.
I'm not quite following you.
I didn't think you are. Right.
Which I know you know about.
Sorry?
Genotypes and phenotypes.
Absolutely. But if you look at even that, okay, you are looking at connections that range in their millions, okay, when you are looking at the genotypes, okay?
Yes, there are many
millions. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Now we must understand here that for them to be directed to their particular purpose, okay, either you accept that it is an automatic
natural selection.
Now let's deal with natural selection.
Okay.
You see, when we talk about natural selection, yes, the idea that is suggested is that, okay, things are happening subject to surroundings, okay?
Yes.
That's what's the idea, okay? But
some genes are being selected out.
Selected, deselected, true.
By natural process,
That's the understanding. But I would ask this, okay? Whenever adaptation is going to take place, it is due to the surroundings. Yes. For example,
the niche changes.
Let's look at that. If we look at the basic idea of Darwin's finches, okay, we looked. It is understood that the beaks were shown to be absolutely. Now the question is, there is no evidence that change had actually taken place.
Well, there wasn't. There wasn't. No, there was some circumscription. I think there were some observations of the
absolutely
of the birds
yes.
From different kinds
but the question is that were they all finches?
They were all finches.
They were all finches. The adaptation that we are talking about, my question, and it still remains as yet a question that needs to be answered.
Good.
Whenever you look at the genetic code itself, because that is the basis of everything. Okay, we need to understand fully where these changes are taking place and definitively why they are taking place. If we are going to consider them to be an external cause, okay, then we are also entertaining the fact that that external element is intelligently being considered
potentially intelligent.
Absolutely, potentially intelligently considered as information that is now going to be taken advantage of.
Right. So let me understand if I see you correctly.
Yeah, sure.
It is possible to align evolution with a belief in intelligent design by dint of having an initial event which propagates many other events, which leads to a complex genetic code, which is then interacts with the external environment to give us the picture of evolution which we see.
If that's probably what you can consider, but that is not my issue at all. My issue is simple. There are many proponents of the theory in a scientific context. Yes, when I said the scientific context, a lot of people seem to always point a finger at religionists and claim they only use the word theory, they don't really understand it. No, not necessarily. My contention is that the proponents of the theory in a scientific context do not actually understand it the way it ought to be understood. So, absolutely. The example I give is this, I was discussing it with one of the individuals here at Hyde Park, and he was talking about fossils. Okay.
Fossils.
Yeah, fossils, and he talked about Australopithecus afarensis. Okay, and
Lucy.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm talking to him about it, and I'm telling him, okay, I mean, these are considered to be intermediates, okay? This is just the fossil evidence.
Yes,
The
okay.
genetic evidence we haven't even considered yet, okay?
That's very
But
much.
absolutely, it's extremely complicated, but it can be considered, okay? The point I'm making is that whatever you say, okay, you are going to come down to only one line. We think this is how life has arrived where it is.
It's a weak inference.
Extremely weak. My contention is it is extremely weak as an inference, okay? However, the problem we are faced with is that we are constantly told that, well, how many scientists do not believe in the theory of evolution? That should tell you. So I get people, you know, because I am engaging.
Do this, yes.
Yes, they tell me, well, why don't you just prove it wrong and win the Nobel Prize? Now that's that shows a very, very weak understanding of the subject matter. Yeah, what they are basically saying is we don't really know, but we know you are wrong, sort of thing. Absolutely,
Based
yeah.
on their acceptance of the scientific, the credibility.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's all I can do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But you know, I'll tell you something, because we are just generalizing, we are talking generally. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, brother. Bruce Lee. Yeah, actually, Bruce, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, because we are talking on a general level. Oftentimes, okay, you will come across people who will say things, but they haven't really understood what they are saying. There is a common claim that 98% of our genes, yeah, are similar to apes. Now, I was listening to a program by. I agree with you, but I was watching a program on the origins of man by a lady, yeah, and she was talking about how there's a 98% similarity. And I looked at when the video was made. It was made in 2003. Yes, it was for the BBC. It was actually commissioned as a program. Okay, I thought to myself, that is strange. It seems like she was not aware of a paper that was published in the Scientific American, dated 1996, where they established that actually it's not 98%, it is about 94%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you share 80% of the Earth's.
Absolutely. And then when I asked them, I said, okay, are we aware here that there are types of DNA? No. Well, actually, according to the scientists, there are types of DNA. Yes, we might disagree or agree on the nuances of what we are talking about, but there are different types. Now, if
Types of DNA. Well, there's
nuclear
bacteria
DNA, nuclear DNA,
there's nuclear DNA. And,
Yes.
And ribosomal DNA. Yeah.
exactly, there is. But now, yeah, but if you look at those,
Oh, and in mitochondria. There's different.
mitochondrial DNA,
That's
yes,
the concept.
absolutely. Therefore, but the point I'm making is, look, what we have to try and understand here, when you are making connections, yes, as I said, we are talking generally here.
Combinations of different
Absolutely,
bacteria.
but we do,
Each one is a different-
absolutely, but we don't look at it that way. We should not be looking at it that way. Let me suggest this to you, okay? For us to consider matter,
Yes, matter. Yeah.
we have to understand how matter came into being.
Right.
The current understanding we have is to do with the Higgs boson.
That I don't know about.
You are not familiar with it,
General
okay?
cosmological.
Right, I see.
The
Okay,
origin of the
yes.
universe, stars explode.
Absolutely, but it's not there. The question is, how do you get matter? How the atoms?
In a supernova.
Yeah. On a basic level, if we are looking, how do we get matter? How do we have matter?
Okay, from
The understanding.
time and energy, which was the beginning of.
Right. Let's say time and energy. Okay. Let's say right at the beginning. This is very basic. I understand. Yeah. You are not familiar with the subject matter.
I'm slightly familiar. But I'm
Excellent.
not
Slightly, not a problem.
cosmologist,
Not a problem. Of course, I understand. Now, if you look at it carefully, okay, you find that for us to understand the theory of evolution,
Yes.
we need to fully understand how matter came into being.
I'm not at all sure about that, to be honest.
That is why I'm making the contention.
Well, okay, by all means, make
Yes,
the
of
claim.
course. Basically, for anything to appear,
Yes.
the atoms, the molecules
Yes.
had to coordinate in a particular way.
Yes.
Okay? For that to happen,
Yes.
you needed some method of all these clumping together. You know, the glue.
Gluons or whatever. Yeah.
They needed to come, but they had to come in a particular fashion.
Yes.
It wasn't just what you'd call arbitrary.
Conditions for existence of this particular universe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The question unfortunately is this, that if we are going to be able to view everything as we can right now and come to the conclusion that everything seems to suggest that it is designed for a particular purpose.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're saying that because all the other potential
Can I take
universes...
your permission to join?
Absolutely, sister. Of course you can. Of course you can.
So-
No problem at all.
Forgive me, in our religion we do not shake hands.
Oh, sorry.
Assalamu alaikum, sister. Can I just ask what you do as a career?
I'm a consultant.
In what?
I'm a researcher, marketing consultant.
Okay, excellent, good.
Yes.
Yeah, we were just basically talking about life and how it came to being, the evolutionary theory, etc.
Oh,
Yeah.
evolutionary, they were speaking
Yeah,
about
so
it last week.
there you are. There you are. So we have got input.
So it goes as far as
Yeah, so
the origins of the
basically,
universe
yes.
and the
Now
multiverses that don't exist.
Yeah, well, this is the amazing thing, that we can speculate about multiverses, but that is based on the idea that there is notional evidence to suggest that that may be a possibility. Now, if you look at that, you ask yourself, okay, if you look at that notional evidence, can we also look at notional evidence which suggests there is a creator?
No.
Well, it is immediately rejected. Question is why?
Because it's outside the scope of science.
Now, let's look at that. If it is outside the scope of science,
Yes.
is it the idea that is the problem, or is it the current method that we are employing? Which one?
Well, I'd say that science only makes claims about nature.
True?
So anything which is outside of nature, supernatural, is just not part of science's province at all.
Agreed. However, the question therefore still arises
For a human
for a human being,
Yes.
because you will see we are multifaceted.
Yes.
Yes?
I'm an atheist and a believer in science.
Absolutely. But now, if you look at it, like I always say to an atheist,
Yeah.
yes, you know the creator exists. He says no. I said, you are saying the creator doesn't exist. He says yes. I said no, you can only deny something when it exists. You cannot deny it otherwise. Can you?
I can say that I have no belief, I perceive no need to conceive of a God at all.
Right, you are actively denying the creator. You are not saying the creator does not exist, because for that to happen you need it to exist.
Yeah, I would need the idea of it.
Yeah. That's different. Now, you see, you ask yourself, whichever way you look at it, yes, everything seems to point to this idea that things are very reasonable. Yeah.
That we live in an ideal planet, an ideal
No,
situation.
those are what they call the constants, okay, where it just seems, how is it that Earth just seems to be at the right position?
There are profit principles of
Absolutely. The question is that it is true. The reality is that the Earth is at a point where, had it been 1 degree this way or 1 degree that way, and no life.
No life,
Okay?
exactly.
We know that. You look at the electromagnetic forces, okay?
Yes.
We are told that all the harmful rays don't enter because there seems to be a protective barrier against it.
Absolutely.
We have got the Earth that is tilted at 23 odd degrees,
Yeah.
which gives us the seasons.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, you've got all the other planets within our solar system.
You know the counter argument.
Sorry.
If it was otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about it. Because we're here talking about it, it has to be that way.
Absolutely. But the question is, as you pointed out, that science looks at nature. Yes?
That's correct.
No problem. How natural is a multiverse?
I'm not qualified. I don't know exactly what you're trying to ask.
It's not trying to ask. I'm saying the multiverse is not something that can be tested, correct?
The theory, which I'm not afraid of.
I understand. Yeah,
So
please,
as
please.
far
Yes,
as I-
sure.
I'll go as far as I can with it.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
But as I understand it, some theories of theoretical physics indicate that there may or may not have been a multiverse. That's where some of the mathematics leads.
True.
In order for there some people say that the possibilities of all these different multiverses collapse.
Yes.
So there's only one left at the actual
Yes.
beginning of this universe.
Yes.
That explains.
Well, you will find that is a strained example of scientists trying to attempt the exclusion of a creator. Because if you look at the mathematics as an example, yes, just as an example, it is a notion that there may be multiverses, okay? But it is based on mathematics. Although the mathematics themselves at this point in time do not support or lend credibility to that idea, okay? But it is a classic method of operating on a scientific basis for something that is completely unscientific.
Well, I say, what I would go as far as I go with you. Is
I understand, yes.
It's theoretical.
Yes.
Theoretical physics is very, very
Not a
theoretical.
problem, yes. But is it not considering something that is outside the boundary of nature?
I wouldn't say so, no. But you could say that mathematics is outside the boundary of nature because mathematics is a conception.
Okay.
I suppose you could say that.
Let's say that. Is it? But can we consider mathematics to be a scientific discipline?
I wouldn't say that it was, no. Actually, I'd say it's different.
Yes.
Science is about, so it's about what is, it's factual.
Okay, so if it
It's
is
about nature.
agreed.
So I would say there is...
But if that is the case, sorry Bruce, if that is the
I'll
case,
try something with you.
sorry, yeah, sure.
Yeah, what I say is there's a study of nature which is, as far as we can guess, as far as I know,
Yeah.
the best approach to that is science.
Okay,
There's the study of religion, which
Yes.
is obviously the exclusive province of theology,
okay.
and the study which you might have of the Qur'an.
Yes, yes.
Is that? But if you're going to make sense of both of them together, take something higher than both,
Yes,
logically. Have to,
Yes.
Have to be that way.
yes, why?
So you ought to either into metaphysics, some kind of general philosophy, or you're into direct approach to God.
Yeah. No, but
Or you're into
Yeah,
or
I see.
mathematics for higher kind.
yes.
But science can't criticize religion, religion can't criticize science.
Now,
That's what I would say.
I agree with you, Bruce. But if you consider it carefully and logically speaking, yes, my contention was about the sciences considering a multiverse, okay, and we considered the mathematics. I then asked whether it's a scientific discipline, and you said, well, I don't think you can consider it. Okay,
Mathematics is
right. Well, if it
mathematics
is
is used by science.
Right.
It's not just all
absolutely, well, if it isn't a discipline of science, then you are agreeing with me that they are delving into something which only requires what we consider to be faith.
I would not say it quite that way. I would say mathematicians.
Yes.
who-
No. Mathematicians, we have just established, according to your understanding, to be excluded from science. So when they are talking about multiverses in cosmology, is that considering the scientific method?
Well, if science takes you as far as the Big Bang expansion, that's the way science takes you.
Yes.
You've got evidence for that.
Yes.
That's as far as the mathematics behind the explanations for that position
Yes.
indicate further extensions of that mathematics, indicate the potential existence of
Yes.
multiverse, which I'm not qualified
I
to
understand.
answer, so I'm
Not to
trying
worry. Yes,
but-
yes. You are just trying to be as logical as you can be.
Just logically as I can.
Yeah.
But if they seem to suggest the physical existence of those multiverses, then
Yes.
yes, that would be an extension of science.
Yes. But
As
don't
it
you-
is the nature of those
Absolutely.
potential multiverses?
But-
that's theoretical physics,
Yeah.
highly mathematical.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mathematics.
But it is nothing to do with science. Is that what you are
Not
saying?
actually observational science.
Absolutely,
It's
it
an
can be.
extension. It's a very much a hypothesis.
Absolutely.
Very
Agreed.
difficult.
Agreed.
As I understand it now.
You are right. You are right, Bruce. However, if you take that same kind of reasoning, can you apply it also to prior to the beginning of the universe?
Prior to the beginning of the universe.
Yes.
Well, there is no prior to the beginning of the universe.
There isn't.
Well,
Time and space cease. Yes?
As I understand it, yes.
Time and space are the very
Again, that's theoretical projection beyond the barrier,
beyond the boundary of what?
of what we can observe.
Science.
Beyond the boundary of what we can observe, but not beyond the boundary of science.
Well, I'm going to put it in plain English. Prior to the beginning of the universe, there can't be science the way we understand it today.
But
Do we agree?
There is no nature of science to apply to.
Agreed. But can we consider the idea that there was something prior to the beginning of the universe?
You as a religion, to follow a religion, can do so.
No, I didn't say that. And I am not even going to subscribe to that idea. I'm asking you, can we it's a question, can we consider, if I can just finish the question, can we consider, our minds seem to have the ability for us to be able to suggest that is there something prior to the beginning of the universe? Equally, flip it to the other end and consider multiverses. We can do both, can't we?
I see what you mean.
Can you see the logic?
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I can follow you now. Can I
Good.
just run through it?
Yes, of course.
I've got to give you two different answers.
Yeah.
One as a scientist and the other as an atheist.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, let's go with
As a
the.
scientist,
Okay.
scientists are not interested because I'm not interested in what is natural. So I can only, as a scientist, go to the point of the beginning of the universe. Beyond the point of the beginning of the universe, there is no nature. Therefore, I'm just it's a realm beyond my interest as a scientist. As an atheist, I say there is no particular reason to conceive of any God. There's no particular reason to consider multiverses or anything else.
Okay.
So there's my two.
Excellent. No problem at all. Yeah. I'll go with the first one. Okay. Nature ceases at the beginning of the universe.
Yes, there's no point. There's nothing.
So there's no science.
Yeah.
I then posited the idea of something prior to the beginning of the universe. Equally, I flipped it to the other side and I considered the idea of multiverses.
Yes.
Both as yet, you can't really say anything definitive about.
No.
Okay.
I certainly don't.
Yet, as a scientist, you are considering the validity of multiverses.
First of
Are
all,
you not?
First of all, I'm not a scientist.
No, I agree. We're just in the context of the discussion. You are considering the validity of multiverses, yes?
I was considering.
Have you changed your mind?
But I don't see particularly any need to do so.
That's fine.
Nor do I need to see particularly any need to do so.
Agreed. Now, but we can accept that just as equally, if we consider that, we can equally consider that. There's nothing wrong with that on a scientific basis.
There's nothing wrong with it on a scientific basis because no scientific basis doesn't exist at this point.
There you are. Yet, there is so much effort being put into establishing the existence of multiverses.
Yes.
Why?
Because that would be part of science.
But Bruce, you just told me that science cannot deal with that.
But cannot deal with science beyond the point of the beginning of the universe. With the point of the beginning of the universe also included the creation, the point at which multiverses were created, then it would be part of science because they would be the same point.
Right, but then if you talk about multiverses, there is no evidence at all for it.
No, there isn't.
So how are you still saying that if at the beginning of the universe there was the possibility of multiverses, on what scientific basis are you making that claim?
Because it's the same as considering the origin point. Because it's the same as considering the origin point of our universe, this Cornwall Garden universe we live in now.
Yeah.
That is beyond the reach of observation. We are weakly inferring
Yes.
that a Big Bang occurred.
Yes.
Show how
I'm sorry, you mean weakly, what do you mean by weakly inferring?
we can
Are you suggesting that the evidence that we have collated up to now is weak?
The evidence that I understand it
Yeah.
can take us to an event horizon beyond which we cannot see.
Yes. The beginning point.
Begin.
Yeah.
Well, it's not quite the beginning point. There's some
The
trillions
point,
of
the point.
seconds- There's some trillions of seconds or whatever.
Yes.
Before you get to the beginning point.
Yes.
We can infer that at beginning point.
No, agreed. The evidence is
That
suggesting,
beginning
yes.
point would be the same beginning point as a multiverse.
But does science deal on inferences?
Oh, weak inferences, yes.
Weak inferences.
Often weak inferences,
Okay,
yes.
and it's not based on observation.
But it is based on observation to the point where we can observe.
There we are again. Back to my point. Either we can't or we can. However, I agree with the idea, the notion of trying to establish whether there's a possibility of multiverses.
Yes.
Equally, why is it not being considered that there is a creator?
Because that is supernatural.
No. We just agreed science, the scientific method cannot be applied the way we understand it to the multiverses. Do we agree? It's suddenly supernatural, isn't it? The multiverses have suddenly become supernatural.
They would have the same natural point of origin.
Sorry, Bruce, I'll cut you. When you say they would have, on what evidential basis are you making this claim?
The basis that the mathematics leads us to that same point.
We've just agreed mathematics are not part of science.
Absolutely.
Well, then you can't use it as a justification for the scientific method.
That are used within science,
Yes.
which come from a higher place, which are used within science to explain.
Sorry, when you say come from a higher place, which higher place are you talking about here? Are you talking?
I'm sure that was a mistake.
No, but what do you mean when you say a higher
I'm
place?
saying that the context of where I said that was my distinction between science describing what happens in nature and theology and religious studies describing what happens in the supernatural.
But I would
weighted to reach by something higher.
I see what you mean, yeah. Well, I would submit to you that these distinctions that you are making, yes, are not natural distinctions. And I will suggest to you why I'm saying this, okay? As a person, as a human being, we are able to think beyond what is scientifically natural. Do we agree?
Yes, we can use the imagination.
We can. This is an often asked question. It sounds a very basic elementary question, but there's meaning to it, okay? Oftentimes people will say, okay, science only deals with what can be seen, what can be tested, etc. Yes? I said, okay, if that is true, can you please provide me definitive evidence for the mind?
Right.
Can you?
Well, I think that's very different. I'm not a psychologist either.
I know what you mean, Bruce. No, but the question is, look, you know and I know, the mind is not something that can be tested physically.
It's a subjective experience.
Well, again, these are just words. When you say subjective, you mean something that I cannot see or test.
It means that something that I can see or test by reflection.
But you do know that in the scientific circles, they are always talking about how I think in my mind it is this, that, and the other.
Well, that's what a human being is, a scientist.
But no. You see, what you are doing without realizing it, you are agreeing with me that a human being has the capacity to transcend the scientific method.
I'm saying that it takes.
No. Do you agree with what I just said?
It takes a human being to follow the scientific method. Therefore, to that extent, it is transcended.
True, but you have to agree that the human mind transcends the scientific method.
The human mind had to create the scientific method. Yes.
You got it in one. If we are the ones who actually establish the scientific method, then we are superior to the method, yes?
Superior to, wouldn't quite put it that way.
I'm using the word.
But I'll take it your way if you want.
Okay, let's do it. I'm using it in the same context as you said, the higher power. Yes, agreed. But now the question therefore arises this: if we have got something which is in daily use every second of the day, is in use, which, as a scientist, I cannot test, because we know that psychology, as you said, since the 1890s became a scientific discipline. It's a different issue on how, yes, but the point is that it is considered to be a science. Now, unfortunately, when people pick up on this, suddenly you get the retort that, oh, those are soft sciences and physics, chemistry are hard sciences. Who is making this distinction? We are. Why are we making it? Because it suits our prejudices. Nothing to do with the details themselves. So, for example, when I talk about the mind, I am considering this. There is another universe to this one. I'm considering it.
I will
yeah?
that you are considering.
There's another universe. But I'm also equally considering, taking all the evidence into consideration, it is impossible to deny the existence of a creator. The scientific evidence.
How do you do that?
I've just been discussing it with you. Right, let's do it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go for it.
By all means.
We agree that the Earth seems to be just at the right point.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be here talking about it.
No, that is what people like Mr. Dawkins says. Yeah, Richard Dawkins. He says, you know what? It's such a brilliant idea. Why? Because we are here discussing it. Yeah, okay, if you say so. But the point is,
I think that's fairly well established, actually.
there we go again. You see, you think it is fairly well established, but I will tell you something. You are right. But you have just told me something that doesn't really make sense.
Oh dear.
We are here,
Yeah.
so definitely it was in the right place. No. I'm asking you, why is it in the right place?
Why is it in there?
Yes. And since we have this superior ability of asking that question, my logic tells me there will be a definite answer and it will be a logical one. Do you agree?
I will go with you that far, yes.
Well, no, disagree with me.
Well, I don't entirely understand
Well,
exactly
look,
what you're doing.
no, it's not what I'm doing. I'm basically just logically taking it as it's coming. You see, I know that it is, we have understood that it seems to be, I'm using the word seems to be in a place where it is just right for life to exist. For life to exist. Okay, it just seems to be right. My question is, why? Now, any thinking person will tell me, well, that is not the realm of science. Oh, okay, if you say so, but the question is still valid. Why is it there? Now, you must remember, we aren't talking about the Earth suddenly just coming there and parking itself.
Yes.
It never happened that way, did it? We were told first about the chaos theory. I don't subscribe to this idea of the chaos theory anyway, okay? But we are told that, you know, the universe exploded, things went all over the shore, and hey presto, formulae, the atoms and...
Out of all the planets and all the...
Yeah, subatomic,
some
yeah.
in the right place.
The fundamental particles, subatomic particles, atoms and everything suddenly all came together and hey presto, we are exactly where we should be. Okay, fair enough. But what would happen if we were just... Well, no, then there would be no life and we wouldn't be here to question it. Well, actually, if that is the case, then you've got to accept that there seems to be a higher power at work.
I don't see how that follows.
I'll tell you how it follows. Do you agree, and we do agree, that we can ask the question, why is the Earth where it is?
You can ask that question.
To what end?
I don't know why you want to ask that question.
Right, now here it is. If I don't know and you don't know, it's like that children's program. If I don't know and you don't know, they might know. Is there a possibility then that you are excluding the Creator simply because it is not fitting in with your prejudices rather than the facts?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, let's go again. Why is the Earth where it is?
Can go right that way.
Yeah, you'll tell me you don't know.
You don't
But the very basis that you are not wanting to consider that question is excluding something on your prejudices.
I can't see how you won't argue.
Okay, let me...
The whole of science is I don't know. And then you go
Well, then
to
in
what
that
you
case, you if you are saying the whole of science says they don't know,
Well, that's
then
not-
I would
that's our starting point.
then I would suggest that you need to maybe take some lessons from the religious community.
Because you make it up as
I
you go
did put, yeah. Now that's a very big claim to make.
Well, I
On
don't
what evidential basis are you making this claim that we make it up along as we go? I would suggest science does that actually, but let's go.
That's rather cheeky of me.
No, I know. Don't worry about it. You are retracting, are you?
What I'm saying is I don't really understand how you can get from a statement that I don't know.
Yeah.
a
Right.
statement
I
to say
appreciate what you are
to
saying,
say
Bruce.
you
It's
don't
the
have absolute knowledge.
Yeah, no. The usual retort here is that, oh, here we go again, the God of the gaps. Yeah? No. Yeah, that is the
Okay, that's
that
the genre.
yeah, that's what they tell us.
Okay.
That religionists are always God of the gaps people. Well, actually, your lack of understanding. Yeah.
This one says gaps in it, that means God.
Exactly. Yeah. I usually tell our colleagues who say things like that is, look, I'm afraid you don't know enough to be able to make a statement like that, and I mean that is sincerely, nothing. But you see, when I talk about the Earth being there and saying why, I would ask this question: the Earth tilts at 23 degrees for the seasons.
Yes.
Why?
Because it wasn't that way, life would be a bit different.
No. The what ifs I agree with, but that's not hitting the reality. The reality is it is tilted just right so that we get the seasons, spring, summer.
Autumn, yes.
Why?
Again, I don't understand.
Again, science cannot answer this question. That's a fact. The egg, you know the egg, I'm just using the egg as an
Chicken
example. Chicken egg,
Yeah.
yeah? You look at the chicken egg, you know when there's a, what do you call a small baby chicken? Do we know? Embryo, let's call it an embryo. Do you know when it starts forming?
I don't know.
Right, an egg when it forms, and you can check this,
Yeah.
okay? When the embryo is forming and it becomes a little chick,
Yeah, yeah.
okay? It grows a beak
Yep.
which gives it enough strength to crack through
The eggshell, yes.
the shell.
Yep.
As soon as it does that, that one drops off
Yep.
and another one grows.
Yep.
Why?
Again, I don't understand it.
I agree, it's beyond the pale of science. But the question is an interesting one here. It seems that the genetic code has been programmed specifically, and one wants to know how it knew there is an eggshell. It's worth considering.
Oh, I see. This is
It is worth.
an egg problem.
No, that's gone already. We've answered that one. We know which one came first.
Really?
Yeah?
Okay, good. Chicken?
How did you guess? Yeah, but basically the question is, as you know, when we were discussing earlier on about an external influence hitting an internal one for it to react, the egg,
Okay, this is about natural
it's a
selection.
classic example here. Okay, how does it know when to develop that particular kind of beak, which is only going to be used temporarily, hits it, comes out and grows a beak, just like our what we call milk teeth?
Yes.
Yes?
Yep.
How is that programmed in? Now, if we suggest that it is due to natural selection,
Yes.
that is beyond the pale of science.
Why do you say so?
Give me an understanding of how.
How could come to be? Well, the ancestors of the evolutionary ancestors of.
Stop there. Have you got evidence for that?
I've got weak influence already. It's part of
No,
society.
did I asked you, have you got evidence? Because I've got evidence for the chick.
Well,
Currently, I can show you that.
I accept that.
But
I generally
yeah,
accept that you do
now
that, yes.
I agree. But if you are talking about a weak inference, I would equally suggest that there is a strong inference for a creator. Why do you find it such a problem? On an evidential basis.
On an evidential basis.
Yes,
Because just think about that for a moment.
no problem. Absolutely no problem.
Okay, well, shall we say that I wouldn't want, if that was true, I wouldn't want any more than the existence of this beautiful day, the lovely people here, my smile on my face, the lovely green trees, to believe in God.
The handsome person here, you
Handsome
forgot.
handsome, intelligent.
Oh no, just the handsome will do fine. He's the intelligent one.
Very well written
Astaghfirullah.
logic.
Yeah.
The good debating partner which I have obviously.
Yes.
To believe in God, because that'd be kind of odd evidence.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
same thing.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. That evidence that convinces you that a God exists, I'd just take it and say, that's just wonderful, but I don't think God exists.
It isn't about me.
Well-
It isn't about you. It is about the evidence that we've just discussed, and on that basis I asked you. So on that basis I want you to respond, and you told me you'll think about it for a minute, and you came out with this.
Well, I'm just saying that.
I know
just
what you
saying
mean,
that the
Bruce.
evidence that we've been talking about,
Absolutely.
Any other evidence you might think about
I
is all the same.
I agree, but if we look at it that way, Bruce, you think about it, yes, and this is an open challenge to anybody, yeah,
Sure, yeah.
and I use that in a nice way, not in an aggressive way or anything. No, I look around, I look at the tree, and I think, wait a minute, it is growing. The tree is growing,
Yeah.
yeah, just like the human body.
Yeah.
Do you know when I talked about how the atoms had to come together, they had to stick together
Yeah.
to form matter? Yes. Now, dinosaurs are 30, 40 foot, you know, we keep finding new ones, okay? We as human beings have got a genetic code in us,
Yes.
okay? This code determines many aspects of our physical being.
Yes, along with the environment. And
Yes?
yes.
But can you tell me what determines how much we should grow and to what extent? What determined that in the first instance on a scientific plane?
The scientific plane.
Yes.
We'll have to go to the theory of evolution again and say that it was determined as we evolved through the processes of human evolution.
Right. Now, you know and I know that no matter what we do and what we see around here, it will entirely be based on information.
based on information.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Where do you come from?
I come from
No,
Paradise.
where did you come from to get to Hyde Park?
Mitcham.
Sorry.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, I came from Blackburn in Lancashire.
Yeah, good for you.
Okay?
Lovely place.
Information
Yes,
was used for us to come where we were.
yes.
Is there any aspect of life that you know of which does not work on information?
You say aspect of life, I mean human life?
Human life, yes.
Well, there's processes in my liver which don't work on information.
The liver works on information,
Okay, good.
which is found in the genetic code. You look at the master genes,
Oh, yes. Okay.
yes?
Oh,
So
I
it's
see.
information.
Okay.
Name me something where it isn't based on information.
Something in our human life.
I did say human life first, and then we'll deal with animals as well.
Well, take the physical world of physics. Sunlight.
Sunlight.
Sunlight is not, as far as I know, information.
The sun is a body,
Yep.
yes?
Yes.
Objectively speaking, it is doing a task.
It is undergoing a process.
It is, yes, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do we know that?
Again, it's an inference from
Based on information.
Yeah.
Okay, name me something without information.
But we can say
Yeah, but name me something without
I see.
information.
What can we conceive of which is not part of our information? So you're asking me what I can conceive of.
Say it the way you want, but just give me an answer.
I can't think of an example where I could.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, I will ask you another, it sounds an odd question, okay? My contention is that for me to deny him, this gentleman here, his existence,
Yeah.
he needs to exist. Otherwise, I can't deny him.
If you concede the possibility of
Yeah, this handsome gentleman here, yes.
that
On a conceptual basis, I will ask you this. If I were to say to you, Bruce, think of something you cannot think of, what would you say?
that would be an impossible task.
It is, isn't it? But the question itself has got a contradiction.
Yeah.
It says, think of something that you cannot think of. Okay, you can't do it. So I would rephrase the question. Think of something that does not exist. You can't do it.
I don't understand how it rephrases it.
Think of something that does not exist. Think of something that cannot be thought of.
Again, that's a contradiction. I say.
No, but in think of something that does not exist, there's no contradiction.
Think of something that does not
It's
exist.
rephrased. Yeah.
As soon as I thought of it, it would exist as a conception in my mind.
Yeah. And what happens? What
So
happens to the
you're asking me
conception?
to invent something.
Yeah. What happens to the conception of the creator then?
So it was invention.
How?
Oh, you just asked me to think of something which doesn't
Watch this.
exist.
No matter what you say to me is going to be based on information and prior experience.
No, because I can invent something.
Name me one.
I can invent.
I've already tried you with information. Try again.
Okay, well, I'm trying to understand you.
I understand, of course, Bruce. Yeah. Basic.
If you say think of something which doesn't exist,
Yeah.
I can invent something.
Go on.
Well, invent the idea of. Well, say for example, someone invented the idea of the square root of minus 1.
Yes. That's a mathematical conception.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
Say something. So
Before you go further, did you use prior experience? How did you know what a square root was?
Well, I use that.
No. I want you to something without any prior information.
Okay, so you asked me to do something. Okay, well, you asked me to do something fairly difficult here.
Not fairly, impossible.
I'm saying impossible.
The question is, how did I conceive of the question?
I'll ask you a different question. So
Yeah,
how
sure.
did someone find out? How did someone conceive of the square root of minus 1? It was invented, was it not?
No, I agree with you. But you see, I didn't ask you that. I am telling you, you see, no matter what you say, at the end of the day, you are going to have to accept and accede to a higher power. Whether that be a creator or the natural functions of the universe, you are going to have to accept that whatever information we have received came from somewhere.
Even invention.
Sorry?
Even invention.
Even invention.
Even invention. So say I invented the number 0. Right.
But that's already done.
That's already done.
So you can't invent it.
No, I can't.
But
Somebody had to.
no, I agree with you. But again, you see, that is where I say No matter which way you look at it. For example, the wheel. You know, let's.
Forgive me, if somebody
Yeah, sure.
did invent that, then that they did think of something which didn't exist.
Unfortunately, you don't have the evidence to prove that to me.
Okay, so I'd actually have to do it in front of you.
That's what. You see, basically, bottom line, I will tell you something, Bruce. Yeah, try it, but I will tell you something. No matter which way you look at it, you will agree that there are 1,001 questions which are beyond the realm of science as we understand it today. If that be the case, then one wonders why the extension of ideas like the multiverse cannot be taken a bit further and say, okay, there is a claim being made. Okay, I will contend.
A religious claim.
No, I don't call it a religious claim. I call it the claim of the creator.
Okay.
Okay. The word religion has funny connotations to people, and I don't use it. Yeah? No, nothing. Don't worry about it. You can tell me whatever you want. I don't mind. Yeah, I think my wife tells me 10 times more, so it doesn't really matter what you say. Yeah, I'll tell you something. Okay, if you look at the contention, yeah, if a book is claiming that it is from a creator who we do not accept.
Yep.
I will ask you a straight question, Bruce. Have you studied the Qur'an?
I've read a little bit.
Okay. Can I give you a present?
I would not let you do that because.
Why?
Well, for various reasons. I do have a copy of the Qur'an. So I can
Give me the reasons.
But the reasons are: one, I would not want you to waste the paper. Two, I would not want you to feel that you had some kind of victory in our debate today. Thirdly, I would not want to accede that I had a case to answer.
Yeah.
Fourthly, just had pure cussings.
Right. What was that last one?
Pure cussings.
I agree with that one. The other three were just excuses, and I'll tell you why. And I mean this with the greatest of respect,
that's
Bruce.
fine.
Yes? Look,
I'll
when you say waste of paper, I call it fear. Second one, what did you say?
I can't even remember.
You can't remember. That's because you suddenly thought of them on the spot. Okay? I'll tell you.
I don't want to acknowledge defeat in debate.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of defeat when we are learning about life?
Defeat because
What made you think about defeat?
videos that I've seen before.
Do I ever gloat about it?
I would say that it is sometimes portrayed in that way or is open to that interpretation.
No, you interpret it that way. Now I'll tell you something, Bruce. You have doubted my intention, and that is one thing you cannot scientifically prove. Again, it's a victory, unfortunately. What can I say? Just a joke. But no. Look, I say one thing. This is one thing I find remarkable about individuals, including you, Bruce, and I mean this with the greatest of respect. There is a book consisting of nearly 1,000 pages.
Yes.
That makes claims
Yes.
with a rational mind.
Yeah.
You are terrified to study it. Why?
I'm not terrified to study it at all.
My contention is, Bruce, you are terrified, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
When I asked you, you said you just read a bit of it.
Yeah.
But when I asked you, okay, can I give you a present, you immediately decided, no. There's no rationale behind it.
That there's experience of dealing with people of religious. Sorry to use that word again.
I agree, but you up to now you have dealt with me for over 35 minutes. Have you found me affable or not?
You have been very affable.
There you are. Then you should accept my present, and it bonds hearts. Presents.
I would ask you then to take my refusal.
No problem. I will respect. I will definitely respect your refusal.
And my obstinacy.
Most welcome, my brother. Most welcome. But to me, at the end of the day, I say one thing. Any person who has a position to hold, like yours, for example, your atheistic position, okay, I would suggest that you are denying yourself the opportunity to find out more about the natural world by denying yourself that opportunity to study a claim. I mean, just imagine somebody, for example, Richard Dawkins makes a claim that he has finally found evidence, the clear evidence to show the merging between apes and humans. Yes?
Yeah.
Would you not be interested?
I'll be very limitedly interested.
But you'd be interested. To be honest with you, if you heard it, you would want to know straight away, and I know it. Yes? Whether you like it or not, unfortunately, you've got to accept.
I'd be very sceptical.
True, but here it is. I am saying to you, look, I am considered to be religious.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to that word, and I make it very clear. But if somebody suddenly told me, do you know what? They have found evidence of an ape human or something like that. I'm talking in very simplistic terms, yeah?
Yes. Okay.
I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and quickly get on to find out what is it about.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Like I told you, there was an issue about fossils when I was discussing with the gentleman. He was not, to be honest with you sincerely, and I don't mean anything negative about him, he was clueless about the subject matter because I never even went into details with it, okay? But for example, there is a fossil that is considered to be an not an intermediary, the one from where the separation took place, okay? The scientific the scientific name is the Sahelanthropus cadensis, okay? That why is that considered to be an example? The scientists will tell you, or paleontologists will tell you, that do you know the entry at the back of the neck of the cord? Yeah, they call it the foramen magnum. Okay, that goes in like that in an ape. But this one, the Sahelanthropus cadensis, it has got it at a straight angle. Well, that means that the evolution took place. But that was only the skull. The rest of it has not been found.
Yes, they do a lot of.
So one wants to know how exactly.
Yes.
On what scientific basis did you extrapolate on this? So now I would, as soon as I know about it, I want to know. Right, let me find out what it is all about, and I will equally do that with any claim.
Yes.
I want to know why you are denying yourself that opportunity.
Because I only believe in nature.
Okay, on what logical basis are you denying a claim?
Because it's a supernatural claim.
Stop there. How do you know when you haven't studied it?
Because it belongs to the tranche of books which I consider as being offered as works of. I'm sorry to use.
Right, no problem.
Religion, philosophy.
Let's say works of fiction.
What?
Let us say works of fiction.
Works of, well, it's not just
fiction.
Fiction like
Myth, whatever you want to call it. But how can you stand here and sound reasonable when you are working on your prejudices without actually addressing the claim itself independently for it?
Well,
on what reasonable basis are you making this?
on what reasonable basis I'm making this?
Yes.
I'm making this basis on the basis that from the starting point that I do not believe.
Stop. You do not believe despite knowing that you haven't studied it.
I do not believe on the basis.
No, is that logical?
I don't think it's quite logical.
It isn't. So you are acceding to the idea that you are being illogical.
I'm not considering that at all. Well, I will consider that.
I think you should.
I'm a human being.
Brilliant, no problem. If that is
I
the
can
case,
struggle
if
after
that is the case, Bruce,
Yeah.
it makes it all the more important that you accept my gift.
I do not accept that because
Your prejudices are holding you back.
my customers, my observations.
Yeah, I like that. Which I accept. I respectfully
Yes.
accept. Yes.
I think we're done.
But I would suggest, Bruce, that since you are actively stating very clearly you do not want to undertake the study independently, if I can just finish, independently, you are actually throwing out all your rationale about your position. Because as far as I'm concerned, you know, when you talk about the natural world, which I agree with, yeah, your position is that you only look at the natural world.
Science.
Yes? No. You see, when you talk about science, yeah, we have already agreed there are many things which science cannot answer. So now, if you want to look at the natural world, yes, the natural world will tell you that the way you are thinking is irrational. Should I tell you how? Should I tell you how?
By all means do. I'm fascinated.
Remember the chick,
Yes.
how the beak comes out.
Yes.
You don't know how it happens. That's the natural world, isn't it?
It is the natural world. Yes.
But you don't know, do you?
I don't know exactly.
You are observing the natural world, aren't you?
Observing the natural world. Yes.
What's the answer?
The answer to what?
How the beak comes out?
it's a matter of evolution, natural selection,
without evidence.
with a process of inference and science.
Weak
which has gone
inference.
behind it.
But now here it is, look at this. Although I know and I appreciate, Bruce, you haven't actually studied the egg,
No,
you haven't studied its processes,
but I'm
you
prepared to accept-
you are prepared to accept without evidence,
prepared
aren't
to-
you?
Prepared to accept that the evidences and processes of science
Without
are the best
evidence.
guide.
Now that's
Without
different.
evidence, again, it's an act of faith, if
Yes.
you want, if you will.
Did you just say an act of faith?
Act of faith, yes.
That's it, we can stop there. You're absolutely right.
Oh, we can-
But I'm so glad as a person who subscribes to science has relied on faith,
as
the way faith is understood.
Because to progress on science, you have to have an axiom.
Agreed. I agree with you. I agree. I agree with you, Bruce.
It has to be.
But at the end of the day, I agree. But I will suggest something to
It
you.
has to be acceptable.
No, agreed. But I will suggest something to you, Bruce. As I told you about the phenotypes, yes,
Yeah.
there are billions of connections. Okay,
Absolutely.
they all had to come into being in a particular sequence. Yeah. Now you are not.
Sequence of
Yeah.
wants to guess.
You might not be familiar with this, but the point I'm making is that at every juncture
Yeah.
that we have discussed,
Yeah.
we have found that there are some insurmountable questions which science in its current scientific method will never be able to answer. However, my suggestion is this: if you were to marry the two, the acceptance of the Creator,
Yes.
the guidance that came from the Creator, the contents of the guidance,
Yes.
and you will find it covers all aspects including the mind. Now if I am suggesting something as what you would call radical,
Yes.
as a complementary approach to science and the Creator, shouldn't you take that up?
No. No more.
Who is
no
being
more
prejudicial here?
The more that I say so, then you should
I am-
take up completely the option that no God exists.
That is an opinion right now, because it certainly is not based on your evidence.
It is an act of faith, and I'm prepared to
Excellent, no problem, and I'm willing to accede to that,
Yeah.
because faith is irrational.
absolutely, completely.
No
irrational.
problem, and you accept that.
Absolutely.
However, as a Muslim, okay, I would make this confident statement that I am combining Islam in totality,
Yes.
which includes all the sciences as they are. Now, which one is a better position?
I would say that position is not the position which I would accept.
I didn't ask you that. I said which one is a better position. One where there's an irrational belief and one where there's a rational belief. Which one is better? You would accept it's a rational one? No, it isn't. Okay, but we will keep it at that, no problem at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
are we finished now?
No, I don't mind at all, yeah.
We'll carry
It's
on.
been, it's,
No, I think what I would say there is, it's like saying, is it better to believe in an afterlife or not an afterlife?
it's not a question of belief, it's a question of establishing whether there is an afterlife first. Shouldn't you logically do that first?
What would you like to do that? Yes.
No, like I said, if I start off with the premise of a creator and I look at the evidence and the evidence clearly suggests there is a creator, I then have a problem. The problem is this: how do I know what a creator is? How do I know? How will I know? Because the no, not only that, but the understanding is that whatever is a creator, by definition created everything that is within our conception.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, logic dictates to me that whatever the creator is cannot be whatever is created. Logical. But if that is the case, then a second question arises, that if it is nothing within the natural world, yes? No, I wouldn't call it supernatural. If it is not within the natural world, then the only logical response I would have, which would make total rational sense, is that the creator communicates with me. Logical.
Can't see how that's logical.
I'll tell you how. If, for example, I come to you and I say, Bruce,
Yeah.
I am your God.
I'd be sceptical about that
Why?
because you don't look like God to me.
Brilliant. How do you know what God looks like?
I don't know, but it doesn't look like you
So how did you disagree with me then?
because you look like everybody else.
Exactly. Now anything that is in the natural world, if you bring in front of us,
Yeah.
we will say you can't be the creator. So by definition and logic dictates that it has to be transcending the creation. But if that is the case, then it is a a complexity which can only communicate with us rather than us trying to basically understand the Creator. And that is what the Creator did with the Qur'an. And with this is the present I was trying to give you, but you have decided you ain't gonna, obstinately refused.
Giving you the gift of my obstinacy.
Not a problem. But you will.
Of my logic and of my rationality.
Absolutely.
Saying that I had an active faith.
You have faith. Absolutely. But Bruce, you will find that on an evidential basis, it's impossible to deny the existence of a Creator.
Well, I'll get to that.
God willing, next time. I shall be here in 4 weeks, God willing. You keep an eye on our channel and we'll put a video up.
By all means.
In the meantime, Bruce, it's been a
very much.
Pleasure. Forgive me for anything untoward that was said.
No,
it was not
please
intended.
forgive me.
And I hope your
You've
condition
and,
keeps good.
See you next time.
Look after yourself.
Very much for a lovely
Thank you.
conversation, Mr. Bruce. We enjoyed
Thank you very much. Look after yourself. Have a good day.